Only I came to my father's funeral. Not my son, not my daughter, not a single grandchild. Just me, standing by his coffin while the cold wind whipped through the chapel courtyard, as if even the weather couldn't bear to stay. The funeral director looked profoundly uncomfortable, his eyes flicking between the empty seats and my face. He cleared his throat. "Would you like us to wait a few more minutes, Mr. Oldfield?" "No," I said, my voice flat. "Start." Dad would have hated a delay. He was punctual to a fault, even in his last days, taking pills by the clock, watching the evening news at 6 sharp, folding his slippers side by side before bed. A man of quiet habit, a man of dignity, and now a man laid to rest utterly alone. I sat in the front row, all 5 chairs around me empty. The pastor recited scripture without conviction. The flowers were too bright, the casket too polished. I couldn't stop thinking how Dad would have frowned, glancing around and silently asking where the hell the children were. Where were they? A message had come that morning. Our son Peter sent a one-liner. "Sorry, Dad, something came up. Can't make it." No explanation. No call. I imagined him on a golf course, pretending not to feel the weight of the day, pretending his father's death was just a small event in a busy calendar. Our daughter Celia hadn't messaged at all. She'd left a voicemail 2 days earlier, breezy as a spring wind. "Dad, I really can't cancel my nail appointment. Tell Dad I'll visit him next week." Next week? As if dead men wait. After the service, I walked alone behind the pallbearers. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't grieving, I had been grieving for months, but because there is a sorrow so deep, it sits motionless inside you, like a sunken anchor. And that day I was already buried under it. The cemetery was deserted. The coffin was lowered. Prayers whispered. Dust met wood. Wood met absolute silence. I stood there long after the others left. My heels sunk slightly into the earth. The headstone would come later, but for now, a simple plaque, George Holloway, beloved father, forgotten. The word stuck in my mind like a stone in the shoe. Forgotten. Back at home, the quiet roared. His recliner sat untouched, his slippers side by side. I walked to the kitchen, opened a bottle of good scotch, the kind I always saved for guests, and poured a glass. I opened my phone and looked at the photo app. Something compelled me to look. Celia's feed was public. She had posted 2 hours ago, a picture of her and friends, drinks in hand. Caption, "Girls brunch, bottomless mimosas, living our best lives." Peter had posted too. A snapshot of the 9th hole, killer swing, perfect weather, deals made. I stared at the screen until it blurred. I turned off the phone, took another sip, and stared at the photo on the wall. Dad and me on our 40th anniversary, standing beside the rose bushes he planted. They used to bloom in red. Now they were bare. Tomorrow, I thought, I'll call the lawyer. I'll make changes quietly, with the same dignity Dad lived with. Because if I was the only one to show up for his last goodbye, I would be the only one to carry out his final will and defy theirs. That evening, I sat alone in our kitchen, the same room where Dad used to peel apples with the precision of a surgeon, lining them on a plate. He always offered me the best piece. Now, the fruit bowl sat untouched. The silence pressed harder, louder, crueler. I had raised a son and a daughter who could watch their father be lowered into the ground from the comfort of a brunch table or a golf course. Was it shame, indifference, or a kind of casual cruelty you don't recognize until it's too late? I poured another measure, not out of sorrow, but out of clarity. I walked down the hallway, opened the top drawer of Dad's desk. I reached behind the files and pulled out the folder I kept hidden, labeled Estate. Inside were the wills. Peter was listed as co-beneficiary of the main investment account, the nearly $300,000 accumulated over a lifetime of work. He and Celia were both included in the house transfer clause. Even the lake cabin, the one they never visited but always asked about when the taxes came due, was earmarked for them. I held the pages, my hands trembling, not from age but from something deeper. Betrayal has a pulse, and mine was thudding in my ears. I rose and walked to the closet, pulling out a canvas storage bin filled with old photos. Dad holding the children when they were small, Peter asleep in his lap, a book across his chest. We were once a family. Maybe I had been too naive to see how far we had drifted. Love doesn't always break in a storm. Sometimes it fades, like wallpaper in the sun, quietly, until one day you no longer recognize the pattern. I picked up a photo of Dad and Peter fishing. Peter must have been 12. Dad had his arm around him, his smile full and soft. That man had deserved more than an empty chapel. I put the photo down and called Thomas Fields, our lawyer. It was nearly midnight, but I didn't care. I left a message. Narrator uses a formal, low voice, quoting the message. "Thomas, it's Mr. Oldfield. I need to revise my will. Urgently. Call me in the morning." I stood by the window. The rose bushes had withered since Dad passed, as if in sympathy. I knew I should prune them, give them room to bloom again. Tomorrow, I thought, I would begin cutting out what no longer belonged. The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and eucalyptus polish. Thomas had known Dad and me for over 30 years. He looked up, his face registering mild surprise. "It couldn't wait," I answered, settling into the leather chair. My coat still smelled faintly of the garden. I'd clipped the dead roses that morning. Pruning always steadied me. There was something honest about cutting back what no longer served. "I got your message," Thomas said. "You want to revise your will?" "Yes," I said. "Peter and Celia are to be removed entirely." He paused. "Are you absolutely sure?" I met his gaze. "I buried my father alone. Our children didn't come. Not a call, not a flower. They were busy." I placed my hands calmly on the table. "They don't deserve a dime." "Understood. We'll draft a full amendment." He opened a legal pad. "Do you want to redirect the assets to someone else?" I thought of Ethan, my grandson, the only one who ever visited without needing anything. He mowed the lawn and brought me library books. He once said, "Grandpa, I like talking to you more than to kids my age." I took a breath. "Yes. I'd like to set up an irrevocable trust for Ethan, the house, the cabin, and the remainder of the estate. I want it structured carefully, protected from his parents' reach." "That can be arranged," Thomas said. "An irrevocable trust. He won't have full access until he's 30, unless for education or medical expenses." "It sounds perfect." We spent the next hour reviewing details. I didn't flinch. When you've buried your father with your own hands and stood beside an open grave without a child in sight, a stack of legal documents doesn't scare you. Nothing trivial can reach you after that. As we finished, Thomas looked up. "I must say, this isn't something many people your age do so cleanly. Most want to forgive to keep the peace." "I've kept the peace for 80 years, I said quietly, "and it buried me long before it buried George." By the time I left, I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done. Done waiting for my children to become people they never intended to be. Done mistaking duty for love. That night I slept without the television on. The silence was still there, but it didn't hurt. Not anymore. I opened the file cabinet. The drawer marked family groaned a little, as if reluctant to give up its secrets. Inside were folders of receipts, copies of checks, and old Christmas cards tucked between loan agreements. I had kept everything because I believed in clarity. Paper doesn't lie. I sat down at the kitchen table. I opened the folder marked Celia, Home and Lifestyle. A $15,000 check dated 2003. "It's a small ceremony, Mom. We just want a nice venue." That venue had chandeliers and lobster rolls. A $7,800 transfer in 2007. "The roof's leaking, Mom. The baby's crib got soaked." I paid it within an hour. $12,000 in 2011. New braces for Ethan. $5,000 in 2013. "He wants to go to summer robotics camp, Dad. It's a big deal." A year later, when Celia called crying because her husband had been laid off, I sent another $20,000. No questions asked. Narrator shifts tone, quoting Celia, soft and manipulative. "You always save us," she whispered on the phone. "We don't know what we'd do without you." I believed her. Peter's folder was thicker. $25,000 in seed money for a sure-thing startup that fizzled out in 6 months. Dad warned me not to send it. I sent it anyway. A used car, a down payment, 3 semesters of grad school. I paid the hospital bill when his second daughter was born. When Peter fell behind on taxes, I wrote the check and told no one. Looking at it all now, line after line, I wondered when exactly I had turned into their emergency fund. Not once did they ever refuse my help, but they had refused to come say goodbye to my father, and that was not something paper could fix. I put the files back into the cabinet, all but one. I kept the envelope marked Ethan. Inside was a note he had written when he was 11. Grandpa, thank you for teaching me to make pancakes. I think you are very wise and funny. One day I will take care of you like you take care of me. I held the paper for a long time. I had intended to be fair, but what if fairness wasn't sameness? What if fairness meant giving your legacy to the one person who saw you, not as a bank, but as a human being? Dad used to say, legacy is not what you leave, it's who you leave it to. I used to think he meant financially. Now I know he didn't. Love isn't in objects, it's in actions. And lately their actions had all screamed the same thing. You are useful, not valuable. That afternoon I packed up 3 cardboard boxes with the kids' old gifts, just to make space. Space for something else to grow. That night I didn't reach for the scotch. I didn't need courage anymore. I made tea the kind Dad liked. Loose leaves steeped just right. I sat in the quiet, the smell of bergamot soft in the air. For the first time in a long while, I felt the beginning of peace. The call came just after noon. Ethan's voice, soft, tentative. Grandpa, I heard about great-grandpa. I'm sorry I didn't call sooner. I waited. I didn't know he passed until 2 days ago, Ethan said quickly. Mom never told me. He passed almost 3 weeks ago, Ethan. I know, he whispered. I'm sorry. I heard grief, the real kind. I wanted to come see you, he added. If that's okay. Of course it's okay. He arrived an hour later. We sat in the living room. I missed his funeral, he said, and I'll never forgive myself for that. You weren't the one who chose to miss it, I said gently. Did Mom really not come? I nodded once. She told me they had work, that it was handled. I should have known better. I rose and returned with the manila envelope containing the trust papers. I handed the folder to him. He read the first few lines and looked up, alarmed. Grandpa, what is this? This is everything. The house, the cabin, even the savings accounts. Yes. But why me? Why not Mom or Uncle Peter? I chose a different truth. Because you're the only one who came back without being called. He stared at the papers, then set them down gently. I don't know what to say, he murmured. You don't have to say anything, just remember who you are. And remember what love looks like when it's real. As he was leaving, Ethan turned to me. If I come over next weekend, could we make pancakes again? We'll even use the good syrup, I promised. Celia showed up the next morning, tires crunching the gravel too fast. Dad, I've been trying to reach you. I didn't get up. I've been busy, I said. She walked in, leaned against the counter. So, is it true? Ethan said you're changing your will. I am, to exclude Peter and you. Celia laughed, short, bitter. Are you serious? After everything we've done for you? I looked up at her, folding done, hands still. You didn't come to your father's funeral, Celia. You didn't send flowers. You didn't even ask. I had an appointment. Yes, I cut her off. Your nails, and then brunch. I saw the photos. You want to talk about what you've done for me? I continued. You sent me grocery lists, bills, mortgage requests, and I paid them quietly. That's what family does, she snapped. Helps each other. No, I said softly. That's what parents do, and I did it for years. Your father built this home with his bare hands. He taught you that respect is measured in actions. And you couldn't give him 2 hours for a goodbye. That's not fair, is it? So you're really cutting us out just like that? No, I said, not just like that. I spent the last 20 years giving without receiving. I buried my husband alone. That's not just like that. That's a lifetime. She folded her arms. You're punishing us. No, Celia, I'm freeing myself and giving everything to Ethan. She laughed again, desperate. He's a kid. What does he know about responsibility? He knows how to show up. The silence was thick. Instead, she picked up her bag. "Well," she said, adjusting her sunglasses, "I hope this makes you feel powerful." "No," I said calmly, "it makes me feel peaceful." She left without another word. I waited until I heard the car pull away before I picked up the trust papers and set them beside the folded laundry. Later that evening, I found a letter on the doorstep. "You don't understand what it's like to balance everything. Cutting us out like this isn't the answer." I folded it and placed it in the drawer marked miscellaneous. Just another piece of paper, too little, too late. Peter came the day after. He knocked twice, waited, then knocked again. I opened the door slowly, already knowing he wouldn't come alone. Behind him stood Meredith, his wife, wearing her usual stiff smile. She nodded at me like I was a stranger. "Dad," Peter said, his voice calm, rehearsed. "Can we come in?" He looked around the house like someone walking through a museum of a life they no longer recognized. I led them to the sitting room. They didn't take off their coats. "I heard from Celia," he began, "and from Ethan. I imagine you did. I think there's been some confusion." I said nothing. Meredith crossed her legs. "We understand this is a difficult time, May. Emotions run high after a loss." I looked at her. "You didn't come to his funeral either," she blinked. "I had a client dinner, very important deal, international." Peter shifted. "Dad, listen, I should have called. I should have come, but I didn't know how to." "No," I interrupted. "You thought maybe if you ignored it long enough, it would become someone else's grief." He looked away. "I waited," I continued. "I sat in a room built by your father's hands alone while they lowered him into the ground. And not one of you showed up." Meredith signaled Peter to be quiet. "We understand you're upset, but let's be reasonable. Ethan is a child. He's 19. He's not experienced. He doesn't know how to handle a trust. He could be manipulated." "By whom?" I asked. Peter tried again. "Dad, I know I've disappointed you, but you have to admit this is a bit extreme." "No," I said softly. "What's extreme is abandoning your father. What's extreme is living your life as if the people who raised you are disposable. So that's it, you're just cutting us off." "You cut yourselves off. I'm just acknowledging the fact." Meredith stood. "This could get complicated, May. Legally, it won't. The paperwork's clean, my lawyer's good, and I've had time to think." Peter looked hollow. "I thought you forgave people." "I do," I said, "but forgiveness doesn't mean access." They left. Only after the door closed did I feel the tremor in my hands. Not fear, not doubt. Release. I sat by the window, watching the light bleed out. The roses were almost bare. Winter was close. Dad would have said, "They'll bloom again." And they would, but not for everyone. The bank smelled like lemon cleaner and quiet power. Mr. Jansen, Richard, was as sharp as ever. "I understand you want to make some changes," he said. "I already made them," I replied. "I'm here to ensure they're carried through." He read the notes. Revoked all link transfers, removed Peter and Celia, set up an irrevocable trust in Ethan's name. That's a significant shift. "I'm a significant man," I said. "I want safeguards, Richard, ironclad, no family representatives twisting his arm. We can structure the disbursements to be controlled until he's 30. No co-trustee," I instructed. "I trust him more than I trust lawyers." Richard adjusted his glasses. "Are you doing this out of anger?" "No," I said. "I'm doing it out of clarity." "That's rare." "No," I said again, more gently. "It's just late." When I stepped out into the afternoon light, it felt different, cleaner, lighter. I found a coffee shop Dad and I used to visit. I sat near the window, sipping my coffee slowly. No phone, no urgency. They always said this stage of life would be quiet. They didn't say how loud the peace could feel. My neighbor, Lorraine Campbell, knocked later, carrying lemon shortbread. "I saw Peter's car here yesterday," she said. "Did he bring flowers or just excuses?" "Neither," I said. "He brought his wife in a suit." I told her everything. Lorraine let out a long breath. "About damn time. I've watched you chase their approval for years." "I didn't snap," I said. "I peeled back everything that wasn't love." "Do you regret it?" she asked. "I regret not doing it sooner." "You're not cruel, May," she added. "They'll say you are. But what they won't say is that you were the one who kept them afloat through every storm." That night, I didn't turn on the television. I pulled out an old letter Dad had written. "May, this house is never empty with you in it. Even when it feels like no one sees you, I do." I read it 3 times. The house was quiet but not empty. Not anymore. It started with a walk, the first one taken without a reason tied to someone else. I wore Dad's old windbreaker and felt oddly comforted by its weight. I walked the neighborhood slowly, like someone remembering what still belongs to her. The porch swing across the street creaked the same way it did when Dad used to say, "We should fix ours before that one finally falls." He never did. Neither did they. At the park, I sat on a bench under the old elm tree, the one that had split in a storm back in '99. It still leaned slightly, stubborn and alive. Across the path, 2 young mothers pushed strollers. I wasn't part of their world anymore. I didn't want to be. A woman sat down on the other end of the bench. She had that tired but functioning look I remembered from my own middle years. We sat in silence for a few minutes. "You come here often," she said. "Used to," I said, "before people stopped needing rides and casseroles." She laughed softly. "That sounds nice." We didn't exchange names. "I'm here to clear my head," she said. "My daughter told me yesterday she doesn't think she wants kids." "What did you say?" I told her I didn't see the point of her 5 tattoos, but I managed to keep that to myself. I smiled. "You didn't keep it to yourself though, did you?" "No, I didn't." We talked for 15 minutes about nothing important and everything that truly mattered. I watched her disappear around the curve of the trail, and I felt something strange in my chest. A small opening like the cracking of a long frozen door. That night I made dinner just for myself. A full meal. I set the table, used the good china, lit a candle. I played the radio softly, the same station Dad liked, even if they talked more than they played music now. I ate in silence, not lonely but alone. There's a difference. Afterward, I walked into the den. The room had always been Dad's space. Papers, books, half-finished crossword puzzles. I dusted, opened the windows, aired it out. Then I sat at his desk and wrote a letter to myself. Just a few lines. "You are not invisible. You are not a burden. You are not required to earn peace through exhaustion." I folded the paper and tucked it into the drawer beside his last crossword. Half done. The answer to 14 down was still blank. The clue was, end of one chapter, start of another. I didn't need to know the answer. I was already living it. The envelope had Ethan's handwriting. I recognized it instantly. It arrived 3 days after our conversation. I didn't open it right away, prolonging the mystery. When the tea was ready, I sat down. Narrator reads the letter, voice warm and slightly thick with emotion. "Dear Grandpa, I wanted to write this instead of texting. I was trying to find the right words. So here are the honest ones. Thank you. Not just for the trust or the house or the cabin, but for something else. For being the one person in this family who never asked me to be anything but exactly who I am. You were never strategic. You were just real. I didn't know great-grandpa was sick. I didn't know he died. I still don't know how to process that. And I'm sorry. I would have been there. I'm so angry at Mom for not telling me, for assuming it didn't matter. I promise I won't waste it. I want to take care of this house, Grandpa. I want to understand the kind of strength it takes to keep showing up when no one else does. I love you. I always have." Narrator's voice returns, deep with realization. I read it 3 times, once with my eyes dry, once with tears sliding silently down my jaw. I set the letter on the mantel as if it were something sacred. I needed this. I needed to know that a small, quiet investment of time had not been swallowed whole by ungrateful children. That night, I sat in Dad's chair. Ethan was the kind of man Dad would have respected. Steady, curious, present. That last one mattered more than anything now. I knew he wouldn't waste the trust. Not because of the money, but because he tasted what it meant to be forgotten. I closed my eyes and listened to the soft creak of the house. It was a sound I'd once found lonely. Now it sounded like legacy whispering back. Evenings had a new rhythm now. No phone calls from Celia asking if I could pick up Ethan. No messages from Peter needing money. The silence had become gentle. I set the table for one. I finally understood the difference between eating and being fed. I made a proper roast chicken, using rosemary from the garden Dad had planted. The house was so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock in the hallway, the same clock from the first apartment Dad and I ever rented. He always said, "We'll build something even if it's slow." After dinner, I washed the dishes slowly, not rushed, not thinking about someone else. Then I did something I hadn't done in decades. I danced. I turned on the old record player Dad had tried to fix 100 times. It skipped every third line and I still knew the lyrics. My knees reminded me I was 79, but my heart was 20 again. I danced like nobody was watching because for once, nobody was. I knelt to clean out the fireplace, cold, unused, a ritual. I found a small note tucked into the kindling. It was Dad's handwriting. "Keep dancing even if it's just in the kitchen. The world will try to make you forget who you are. Don't let it." I sat back, hands covered in dust, tears welling. He had known what life would try to do to me. He had left this message like a trail marker. Now I know better. Now I know peace is a better measure than exhaustion. I didn't expect her. When I opened the door and saw Meredith standing there alone, no Peter trailing behind, I felt a strange quiet fall over me. She was holding a store-bought apple pie. "I didn't come to ask for anything," she said. "Good, I heard what happened, what you told Peter about the trust." I nodded. "I know you probably don't believe me," she continued, her hands clasped tightly. "But I wanted to say thank you for not giving it to Peter. Peter never learned how to stand on his own," she said. "You enabling it didn't help, but neither did I, and now it's just who he is. I know he blames you and Celia blames you," she went on. "But what they don't say is that you were the one holding the whole thing together while they complained about the way you did it. So why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm tired too," she whispered. She finally sat down. "I admired George," she said. "He was kind to me even when he didn't have a reason to be." "You didn't owe me thanks," I said, "but you owed him your presence when he left this world and you didn't show." She looked down. "I know." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn photo. Ethan, maybe 5 years old, sitting on the swing in my backyard. "He loves you," she said. "You know that, right? I hope someday he loves someone like that and knows how rare it is." She stood then. "I won't take up more of your time, but I wanted to say it before the story gets rewritten, before they turn you into the villain in their version." Meredith walked to the door and opened it herself. The wind caught the edge of her scarf. For a second, she looked younger, less polished, just a woman who had also spent a lifetime giving herself away to people who never truly saw it. She paused in the doorway. "Don't let them take your peace, May," she said. "They've taken enough." And then she was gone. I stood there a long time before I picked up the pie and placed it in the fridge. Not out of sentiment, just because it would be good with tea tomorrow. A week later, I got the confirmation letter from the attorney. The new documents were filed. The trust was active. Ethan's name now lived on every deed, every account, every line where Peter and Celia's names used to be. It felt quiet, not triumphant, not dramatic, just steady, like a book finally closed. I took the envelope into the garden. The roses had finally surrendered to the cold. Dad used to say, "They surrendered with dignity." And I always liked that phrase. Now I knew what he meant. There's a way to let go that doesn't look like defeat. I sat on the bench. It was real now. Not just a decision made in grief or anger. It had settled into me. I had done what needed to be done. And strangely, I felt something else. Permission. Permission to start again, even if it was just with the small things. I brought out the sewing machine, packed away since before Dad got sick. I oiled the wheel, threaded the bobbin. I didn't need to make anything important. I just wanted to hear the hum again, that soft, working rhythm that reminded me of women who kept going. The next morning, I got up early and made pancakes, real ones from scratch. I set 2 plates on the table. Ethan arrived just after 9, carrying groceries I hadn't asked for. "You want to learn how to make them today?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "I do." We cooked together. He listened, really listened. Not the way Peter used to, impatient, always looking for the shortcut. "You're good at this," he said, biting into the first one. "I've had time to practice," I said. He grinned. "I think this place could be something, Grandpa. The house. I don't just mean keeping it, I mean using it. Maybe a little garden workshop, teach people things." I felt something open inside me I didn't expect. Hope. Not the loud, desperate kind, the soft, patient kind. "I think your grandfather would like that," I said. "Maybe I'll start with the porch, needs fixing." "You'll need real tools," I said. He laughed. "Guess you'll have to teach me that too." The first snow fell lightly. Just a whisper of white dust across the yard, the kind that tells you the season has truly changed. I watched it from the back porch. Ethan was out front, measuring the steps with a small level, mumbling to himself like Dad used to when he worked. It had been a month since I signed the papers. The world hadn't applauded, but a weight carried for decades was finally gone. The kids hadn't called again. I didn't chase them. Let them tell their version. I'd lived long enough to know that people will always rewrite the truth to make their shame more comfortable. But I knew what happened. I knew what I gave. And I knew what I reclaimed. The truth didn't need to shout, it just needed to stand. Ethan knocked gently. "Grandpa, you want to see the new railing?" He'd done well. Sanded, stained, sealed. The porch looked like someone cared about it again. Dad would have said it leans a little to the left. I smiled. Ethan stood beside me. "I was thinking maybe next spring we could start a little garden out front, not just flowers. Vegetables, herbs, something that grows." I looked at him and saw the man who had chosen to show up. "That sounds just right." That night after he left, I wrote one more letter. Not for court, not for lawyers. For myself, to the woman I used to be. "You tried longer than you should have. You bent yourself into shapes that didn't fit. You gave when you should have said no. But you also loved fiercely. And that is not a mistake. Now you are free. Free to dance in kitchens, to say no without guilt, to say yes without fear. You are not cruel, you are not bitter, you are clear. And that finally is enough." I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer. Like a lighthouse I had built myself. Before bed, I looked up at the sharp stars and whispered. He would have been proud, not of the decision, but of the fact that I had finally chosen peace. Final voiceover. The narrator speaks directly to the audience, the tone imparting wisdom and final lesson. So, here's what I'll leave you with, you who have read this far. Do not wait for someone to hand you peace. Choose it. Do not confuse love with obligation. Do not confuse duty with worth. And if your house is full of noise, but no one hears you, make a new kind of quiet. One where you are no longer invisible. It is never too late to come home to yourself.